Good morning, boys and girls. It's good to be with you again. Remember last week when we read our story for the first time? We had a hug. Let's do our hug. We're going to do it just like this. And Mrs. Deitz sends you all a hug and an I love you. Now today, the book that Mrs. Deitz is going to read is something that every one of us have. And it's kind of inside, and the only way we see it is sometimes on our faces. Can you think what that might be? During this time when we've been in, we have all had lots of different feelings. A feeling is the way that you are feeling inside, and sometimes a feeling can be happy. Can you smile with me? And sometimes a feeling can be sad and you want to cry. And sometimes a feeling can be mad. Can you make a mad face? And sometimes you feel a little bit maybe embarrassed or nervous, and you kind of back up and you don't want to be around anybody. Well, today, because we all have so many feelings, and now during the time when we're home so much, we all see each other's feelings. And feelings are wonderful. They're fine, and we're supposed to feel that way. But it's what we do with these feelings. If we do something to hurt somebody or say mean words, that isn't good. We have to think of some way to handle our feelings and get over them, but not hurt or be angry with people. So the book that I'm going to read you is a book called How Do I Feel Today? And this book is a very special book to me because, listen, and I'm going to tell you a secret. One of my granddaughters wrote this book. So I love it and read it often, and I hope you enjoy it too. Here's our title page. How do I feel today? I have so many feelings in my head and in my heart. It's hard sometimes to know just where to start. Is what I'm feeling today okay? And what should I do when I'm feeling this way? Now, if you want to make sure you look at the pages, because you see this little birdie? That little birdie is on every single page. So see if you can find that birdie on the pages. Sometimes I feel so angry and hot, I want to ball up my fist and kick a lot. Hurtful words fly around in my head. If I were a color, I'd be flaming red. I want you to remember that. The color that we might think about for anger is red, because I'm going to ask you in a little bit. So what is okay? What should I do? Should I bite or kick? Should I throw a shoe? Should I stomp, fall down, and demand my own way? Somehow these actions just don't seem okay. See our birdie? He's listening to all of this. How should I handle this anger inside of me? I can cup my hands to my mouth and blow out 1, 2, 3. I could go outside to think and sit or even yell at a tree for a bit. I can turn around till my energy's spent or punch a pillow if my grown-ups consent. What about when I'm feeling sad? I can barely remember the good times I've had. My eyes fill with tears. I don't know what to do. If I were a color, I'd be a blue hue. So let's remember, if you feel sad, you think of the color blue. So how should I act when I'm sad to my core? Do I run to my room? Do I lock the door? Should I ignore my sadness like it doesn't exist? That doesn't seem right, and the sadness will still persist. Dear Mom, oh wait, I remember some ways to feel better. I can draw a picture or write out my feelings in a letter. I can talk about my thoughts with a grown-up I trust and get a hug to help make things start looking up. Mrs. Deitz loves those hugs. And when I feel embarrassed, what should I do then? It makes my ears hot and my head starts to spin. Are people staring at me? What do they think? If I were a color, I'd be a bright pink. So what is okay? Should I act? Should I lash out at others? Go on the attack? Should I get angry and yell and leave everything reeling? Somehow I don't think that would help this embarrassing feeling. So how do I make this not a big deal? The first thing to do is acknowledge how I feel. This feeling is scary and so big to me, but moving on will help it pass more quickly. I feel silly and embarrassed, but that is different than angry or sad. Everyone has felt this way, and it will pass soon, which helps me feel glad. And what about times when I'm nervous or scared? I get dizzy and woozy and start to despair. My head feels jumbled, my legs turn to jello. If I were a color, I'd be a bright, blaring yellow. So scared, the color would be yellow. So what should I do? Should I cower and hide? Should I stay in my bed and not go outside? Should I let the tightness in my chest be the boss of me? That doesn't seem right. I'd rather be free. So how should I act when I'm nervous inside? I need to remember about myself things that would make me fill with pride. I'll take some deep breaths and tell myself that I'm ready, and think of myself as being calm, strong, and steady. I have so many feelings in my head and my heart, and now I remember to do when they start. Any feelings I feel are completely okay, as long as I deal with my feelings in the best way. Now let's think just a minute. Remember Miss Deitz said she was going to talk to you when we got finished? What was the color for angry? Think real hard. Now say it with me. The color for being angry would be red. What about the color for sad? If I feel so sad, the color would be what? Would it be blue? And what if I'm embarrassed and I don't know what to do? Would the color be what? Scarlet pink. If I'm nervous or I'm scared, what would the color be then? It would be a yellow. So when you think about your feelings and you're feeling sad, think of things that may be blue. If you're angry, think of something red, and it may make you feel better. Mrs. Deitz is so glad to be with you. Now, when we read this book, is this a make-believe book or a real book? You're right, it's real. And last week, the book that we read was that when the animals talked and the animals dressed up like in Halloween costumes. Was that a real book or a make-believe book? You're absolutely right. You're such smart boys and girls. That would be a make-believe book. So sometimes Mrs. Deitz will read you a real book, the things that really happen, and sometimes she will read you a pretend or a make-believe book, and they are so much fun to read. It's fun to pretend when animals talk and when animals get dressed up. So let's see what book Mrs. Deitz will read you next week. Goodbye, boys and girls. I hope to see you soon.